externalities. So a negative externality is effectively just means that the existing market equilibrium price and quantity is not efficient. And so because it is negative, what that means is that there is a negative impact on individuals and companies that are not in that specific goods market. So what you need to do then to take into account the negative externality is that market need to internalize the negative externality, and you need to internalize the negative costs that externality puts out into society. And so the negative externality is operating on the supply curve. And so what does that mean? What that means is that the negative externality is operating on the supply curve, so the private cost to suppliers. And so this external cost is the value of the negative impact on bystanders. So let's say in this example that there is a negative impact of $1 per gallon of gasoline sold. And so the social cost then, the cost to society of consumers consuming gasoline, is the private costs, so the supply curve, plus the external costs. So what that looks like is that raises at every single quantity consumed the price by $1. And so this then is the new supply curve. It is the social cost curve. The private cost to suppliers plus the external cost, the negative impact of gasoline per gallon to external individuals who are not in the market for gasoline. And so what that looks like then when you add the demand curve is you see that the new socially optimal quantity of gasoline is 20 gallons. So the intersection of social cost and demand rather than the old supply curve. And so this is really important when thinking about what that means as a relationship to quantity. And that relationship to quantity is effectively at any quantity less than 20, there is an additional value of consuming gasoline. So consumers value additional consumption more than the social cost. But at any quantity greater than 20, the social cost of the last gallon of gasoline is greater than its value. So its impact is larger than its value. So that is effectively a negative externality and how a negative externality operates on supply. But what about a positive externality? So positive externalities, once again, mean that the existing equilibrium price and quantity are not efficient. And so once again, you have to internalize those costs into the market to make the market operate efficiently. And so the social value of a positive externality is positive, which makes sense because it's a positive externality. So that means that there is a positive impact on bystanders in the market. So because of this, positive externalities operate on demand rather than supply. And so what does that mean? That means that if you have, so this is our original demand curve, and this is our new demand curve after we take into account the positive externality. So a question then could be, what is consumer surplus before the externality was internalized? So at this point, and after it was internalized, so along this. So remember from our prior surplus calculations, it is 1/2 base times height which is 1/2 quantity, so the quantity in the market, times the price. So before the externality is internalized, we have 20, so the quantity before the externality, times 40, so the maximum, minus 20, so the equilibrium, which in this case is $200. After the externality is internalized, the new consumer surplus is 1/2 25, so the new equilibrium quantity times the new max 50 minus 25. So that right there, which is going to give us $312.50. So notice that when the positive externality is internalized into the market, consumer surplus increases because the appropriate quantity is now being produced. So what does internalizing the externality mean? So internalizing the externality means that you are getting the market participants, so the individuals in the market, to actually pay for the cost or the benefit that their market has on outside individuals. So for a negative externality, that means you must tax the good or service to make market participants pay the social costs of consumption and production. For positive externalities, though, that means you must subsidize the good or service to make market participants increase consumption or production. So you want to increase it for a positive externality. Whereas for a negative externality, you want to decrease quantity. So positive externalities, you want to increase the quantity in the market consumed. For negative externalities, you want to decrease the market quantity consumed. And so regardless of if it's a negative or positive externality, it's going to alter the market equilibrium and price. And so just to kind of summarize, and I think if you were trying to study for an exam, this would be a great slide to take a look at. Just summarizing the externality effects for positive and negative externalities, and then how to remedy the problem, how to make individuals in the market internalize the cost of their externality.